So what are we gonna do today, guys? We're just gonna review how to build a IMDB clone. So we're gonna create a new folder called React-Movies, a new project using npx. We're gonna move into our movies folder, okay? We always gotta do that. I don't know why I'm repeating that. I'm pretty sure you all know that already. So we're gonna open up our code editor. We open up our code editor. Now we start our packager, okay? Remember, we always gotta start our packager. It doesn't run exactly the same as using what we've been working with before. And there we go, we created a brand new project. You guys should be used to seeing this screen by now, okay? This is a brand new project. A bunch of new files on our screen. If we look at our path, there we go. So, what's the next step? Let's go ahead and just delete and make sure that everything's running okay. I don't know why I always do this. I always do this. IMDB, we're building an IMDB clone, remember. I refresh, I see the IMDB clone. Okay, so remember, what are we building here, guys? Someone tell me what we're building.
Movie page like IMDb.
Yes, we're building a movie page like IMDb, okay? So you can look around. This is not gonna work, I think. It's broken, I think, because I stopped my packager. Okay, there we go. Remember, when we load the page, we need some movie data. Man, hold on. I'm sorry, I'm opening up the other project to show you guys.
Get that.
I should just show you the actual website. I think about it. We're building this, okay? It has data about our movies, okay? And we want this to update next week, next year, whatever, just like the real clone. A bunch of images, a bunch of videos, a bunch of data, content. And let's think about this as a whole. There's like navigation up here. You know, there's different types of lists, for example. There are different options, and there are different effects that allow us to know that, you know, like certain things can be clickable, you know, the blue text. There's a whole bunch of shit going on here. This all happened through programming. So, in order to clone this, we're going to need some data. So the first thing I'm going to do is delete everything inside of, I don't remember where I'm at right now, hold on. Okay, I'm going to delete everything inside of app, and then run RCC tab. It's going to create the most basic component that we can have. What do we need to do when we first open whenever we first start the app? Well, we need to get some news, or get movies. So we define a function with the parentheses and the curly brace, and we apply the knowledge that we've learned in the previous lessons. So we're gonna make a fetch request. Fetch. And we're gonna pass in the URL that we want. And right now I'm going to hard code this page number to make this simpler. Await. Okay, so now remember, await, we need to sync in the front. So the next step is what? We need to parse our data. It's just response.json. And we got an error. Our editor is telling us. Okay, there we go. We need to do an await in front of our parse as well. So the expectation is what, guys? If I were to console log this right now, what am I going to see? JSON data. We save it. We load our app. Thank you. We look at our console, what do we see? Why don't we have data, guys? Exactly. We need this function to fire when the application first loads. There is a special function that has the responsibility of doing that exact situation. Component did mount. And before we do anything fancy, we're just going to console log to prove that this is what is actually going on. So we're going to say our component did mount. So if I save it and refresh it, what do we see in our console? We see that the component did in fact mount. This function did in fact execute. Line 5 did in fact execute because it is inside the body of our component did mount. Okay, so we're gonna call it. We're gonna say this dot get news. Why is this not working? This dot get news, okay? And then we're just gonna console log here too to prove that this works. And we're gonna see, bam. We saw the console log for get movies. We saw this. We see this object. This object has one key that we're interested in. We're interested in the results right now. You guys are going to later on be interested in all the other keys, depending on if you want to have pagination and whatnot. You know, it's going to tell you how many pages are in there, how many total results there are. You may need to look at this if you have those little buttons, for example, right? And I remember when I gave you guys the, the people object, a list, and I told you those are simple objects. Well, I hope you can see what I mean now. These objects are much more complicated, and this is not going to go anywhere. This is going to continue to persist. You're going to have more and more complicated objects. So, for example, if I console log console, look at this one. I have no idea what half these do. I bet you won't for a while either. Okay? These are the types of objects that is gonna are gonna step your game up. So when I tell you that peoples and these movies are simple objects, I mean it. Okay, that being said, we have JSON data now. So what do we need to do? We need to update the state of our application. We're gonna call it movies. And we're gonna look inside of what key? Articles. Articles has the key that we want, right? Oh, my bad. Wrong. It's results. Okay? So we're gonna do dot results, 0, to just look at one all the time. So now we see that we have the object. This is one movie object. Okay? I want to build a beautiful UI now. I have my data. I've done the necessary steps. Now, this is experience. The truth is this is experience. We're just going to install a library. So we're gonna run this command. We're gonna stop our server. Okay, we stop our server. I don't know which one this is. El Captain, React. I forgot which one I'm at actually. Okay, I think it's this one. Okay, so now we're going to run npm install react bootstrap. Okay, and then I don't know why this one causes an error for me. Some of you have heard reports that it works for some of you. I forgot who, to be honest with you, but I'm going to do it the way I think it will work. So I'm going to jump over to index. I'm going to save this above our title. I'm going to go ahead and update title while I'm here. What are we building? IMDB movie clone. Okay, there we go. Save it. Okay, that looks good. So let's go ahead. We're waiting for this to install. So let's go ahead and look at our documentation. Let's look at some components. What do we want to build first? I want to build a nav bar first today. So I'm going to find a nav bar that I think is pretty. Am I looking at the right thing? Why is this all funny? Nav? Yeah. I'm confused. Why can't I scroll? Come on. Oh, there we go. Okay, nav bar. We're looking for nav bar. All right, there we go. We got a nav bar. So I'm going to copy every one of these over here, okay? I'm going to copy them over to which one? How many components do we have, guys? 1. So I'm going to paste it to the top. And I'm going to see a bunch of complaints. Oh, man. What do we do now? Well, let's look back at our documentation and copy and paste some more. So I see the example of importing. It's in the introduction to this library. Getting started introduction. How do I import these components for use? So I'm going to paste. And what do we want? We want a nav bar. We want a nav. We want a nav drop down. We want a form. We want a form. Control, I forgot to be honest with you. Form control. And we want a button. We did in fact want a button. Okay, so sweet. We're gonna console, we're gonna format as we go. All right, that looks good. Hopefully this is finished installing. Okay, so we can run our server again. We restarted our server now because we turned it off and now we turned it back on. I wanna see a nav bar if this worked correctly. I wanna see a nav bar. Okay, we got a nav bar. Dope. Okay, so next thing, I want to go ahead and just start working with our layout. Okay, so we're just gonna look at our layout. Look at the documentation for layout. We're just gonna copy over the container. So I'm gonna paste this. Oops, did I miss something? Yep, I did. I paste that here. I'm gonna format it a little bit. I'm gonna copy over the navbar inside of this thingy, of this container. I think I'm gonna put it above the row. I don't know. We're gonna paste it and just see what happens. Okay? Oops, we got a complaint. Container.
I think should be one div.
Yeah, there should be no div, I think. Fuck me. Okay, this happens. This is normal. Let's think about this. Div. Why can't I do this? Does that work? Oh. Yes, I fucked up. Thank you for being there for me, my code editor. I couldn't trust the class. Need a column. Okay, that looks sorta all right. What's the problem now? The navbar needs to be larger than everything else. So I'm gonna move the navbar out of this container. Okay? I'm just gonna go back to what we had.
Change the
Yeah, okay, my bad. 1 second. Okay, so we're gonna put this navbar above the container. You save it, and there we go. It's kind of got a navbar that looks all right. Okay, so what's the next step? We're gonna go ahead and stick inside one of these columns where we're gonna put our movies. Okay, and I suggest you guys, because you guys can see that this is already getting kind of complicated, right? I'd like you guys defining what types of functions as we go. I want you to define render functions. Render movies, for example. Okay? And what are we gonna do inside of a render function? We're always gonna return some JSX. So what are we gonna return here? Oh, I wanna return one card at first. We're gonna make sure we can get this to work right. So we can find the card. Where's that? Here's one. A basic example. Let's keep it basic. Okay? What are we gonna need in here? We need a card. Okay? See if this works. Okay, we got one card. We also want what now? A list, right? I think a list or something. Where's it at? This thingy. Okay? I'm gonna stick this bad boy inside. We already have a card. Obviously, I'm kind of like thinking for you guys, right? But I want you guys to, also whenever you guys do this, just know that these are some things you got to think about, right? So now we look at our card, and we kind of got it the way we want it to be, right? It's almost there, right? Okay, so now the question becomes, how can we get to render mini cards? Now, we already have our data. We rendered one card. We rendered our navbar. We rendered a container that contains a bunch of stuff, right? So let's now actually apply some data. Let's get some data in here. So now I'm going to say this .state.movies.map. And what are we going to have each time we run this? An individual movie. So we can just move all of this inside of it. Okay. Thank you. Okay, now the problem becomes what, guys? Yes, we need some initial state. State. Movies is what? Just an empty array. Guys need to stop me. Please stop me if I'm moving too quickly.
Can you slow down a little bit?
Okay, ask me any questions. What am I supposed to slow down on? We did this yesterday. Okay, so now we have a bunch of cards, right? So what are we doing when we map over a list of something? We need to look at each and every single item. If we don't look at this item, why are we even mapping over it? Right? Why? So we're gonna look at this item, movie, and we're gonna start small. I did this differently yesterday to show you guys there are many different ways to approach building. Okay? You guys gotta figure out what works for you. Okay? So movie dot title. Okay? Sometimes it can start with 1. I don't know. And I can see that now all these titles are changing. Oops. Fuck, man. Sorry. Why is it so small? Okay, there we go. All right, so our titles are in fact changing, right? So what can we do now, guys? Let's go ahead and do the same thing for all the other attributes. Overview. View. Okay, we save it. All right, so now we got an overview filled into each and every card. Okay, so I don't remember the path to find the movies. Can someone give it to me? You know what? Never mind. Loy shared it yesterday. Loy can just go back up, look inside the chat history because he knows that Loy sent it yesterday because Loy was paying attention to Loy. There we go. We copied this path right here. So what is this? What do we need to do here? This is for what? I didn't give a description. I'm sorry. I'll do that next time. This right here, this route is to give you the poster. It's to give you the route to the poster. So I'm just going to delete the images right here. Whoops. And I need to concatenate. And there we go. And what's the one piece that we need to change programmatically? This thing right here, I think. Is it here? I think it's here. Movie dot backdrop path. And I don't know if this is going to work, guys, but we're about to find out. Okay? So we're going to save it, we refresh, and bam. We just kind of made it up as we go. Right? The movie went in there. Okay, so don't be scared to experiment. Your computer will not blow up on you if you guys write some bad code. Okay? You can always delete the folder, start over. I guarantee you the second time around you do a better job. Okay, so what's the next part? I don't remember what this object has. So let's look at these keys. How come I can't expand this? Okay. Okay, so what else do we have? We have genre IDs. Okay? So before we move on, the reason why I did this all in one file is to show you that I would prefer that you guys build everything in one file, and then afterwards you start extracting it out into smaller components. Why? Because we're gonna work from inside out. We're inside the component and we're gonna move out. And you guys can hear this expression a couple different ways. So what does that mean? So I want this to be a function now. I want the render movies to be a function, a component now that renders. I want it to be a function that renders a component. Okay. So let's go ahead and just define a movies component above this one. So we'll say function movies is movies, and in here we return some JSX. Every single component must return some JSX. Okay. So what are we going to turn inside of here? What are we going to return inside of here, guys? Let's keep it simple. Just return a div. Okay? So I copy movies, and I'm going to just delete this place where we render out our movies. We'll save it. Do we have an error? No. But we do not also have movies. So what is the next step? Now we need to define what goes inside of movies. So how is movies going to know about what it needs to render? Here's a component, okay? We've defined two components. How does movies know what it needs to render? Props. Thank you. So that is exactly correct. We need to send props. So in props, or in movies, in this component that we just defined, or that we rendered inside of our app, we pass it a prop. Right now, I'm going to call it tree. We can call it whatever we want, and we can pass as many as we want. What if we wanted it to be red? Let's just call it red, actually. Green, blue, okay? So what are we going to pass in here? I could pass a 1, a string. I could also pass this.state.movies. So now, when we look at movies, and we look at console.log, how can we look at the properties? We can capture the arguments that were passed to it. And these are properties. They are exactly like the arguments to a function, which is why if I capture properties right here, I save, you're going to see this rendered. So what is the properties that we pass to movies? Amazing. And then after our component ran inside of our app, and we got the data, and we updated the state, and we updated the movies piece of state, what was the properties that were sent into our movies component? Let's make this more explicit. So that afterwards, we got a property passed in from our app component to our movies component by the name of their colors, blue, green, and red. But there's actually one that we actually would really do. The other two is I'm trying to show you guys that you can pass in anything you want. Okay? You can even pass in what? A function. Red, green, white, for example. I don't know. So we can just pass in a function. So watch this. We're gonna have one more. Here's a function called white. Okay? So we're gonna do that. And you guys have already done that. You guys have just been following along. So instead of calling it blue, I'm gonna call it movies. I'm just gonna leave these here. Is it okay if I leave these here as a point to prove that we can send in as many properties as we want? Any property we want, we can send in. So I'm gonna leave that there. So in our movies, now what do we need to do? What am I interested in? What's the key that I wanna look at? What do we wanna do in movies, guys? Come on. We want to map over the properties of movies, okay? Dot map. And then each time we map over it, we're gonna have a single movie. And then what do we do inside of here? Well, because we wrote a render movies function and we did this exact same thing, we can just copy it and then return it here. Okay? So now I save. Oops. Render movies. So I need to put something inside of here. We gotta delete this as we go. This pops that movie. Gotta return. There we go. So we completely refactored. Now our our app component is much cleaner. Okay, it's a little bit cleaner. So now the next step becomes we don't ever want to put, or not ever. Okay, I just did it. Right, not ever, but usually you don't want to put all your multiple components inside of one folder. So we're gonna create a new folder or one file. We create a new folder where we put all our components. We call it components. We create a new file called movie.js. Okay? We copy over everything from the imports and the movies, and we paste. And then we can see that our code editor helps us. It tells us what we don't need. It's telling us which ones we don't need. So we just delete these as we go. Okay, and what do we need to do from our movies? Oh shit, I spelled this wrong. Movies, okay? Movies. We need to export from it. We need to make it available in other places for use. So we save here, and then we do what now? Let's go ahead and delete this component that we defined. Okay, and then we're gonna do what? Import the component we also defined. We created a new component, and we just we defined it in a different file, and now we just deleted what we did in here. Because we can copy and paste, no problem. So we're gonna import it from components and movies. And I think this will work. And it does in fact work. Do we have any questions so far? Okay, so how long have I been talking? 30 minutes? All right. Who wants to see binding again? Or you guys want to hear me talk about the same thing again? I want to give you a high-level overview of what I do, okay? So fine, I'm gonna do one more feature I didn't do yesterday. Now that I think about it, I want to show you guys how to do this, okay? And actually,
Could you go slower then?
one more feature I didn't talk about. Let me think about this. I'm gonna give you guys a break. I'm gonna